Your team is like your family, your employees. We are one big happy family. No, you're not.
Still backstage at the Gladiator Summit here in Dubai and fresh off stage, so his vocal cords are warmed up. That was the warm-up act. This is the main event. Jigar Sagar is in the big auditorium, serial entrepreneur and startup investor extraordinaire.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you for having me at this main event.
Just don't tell Darius. Listen, there's a few things that I want to talk to you about. One of the things we were talking about briefly backstage was the fact that you want to start a new business every 3 months. I think if you haven't done it by every 6 months, you say you're getting itchy feet and you feel like you've let yourself down. One of the big things for me over the last year or so has been the exact opposite of that I've been trying to focus, trying to consolidate, because I think over the last 20 years, I've been a collector of things and probably a collector of the wrong things. Tell me how you keep that your obsessive passion with starting new businesses or investing in new businesses. When I say under control, I mean how do you make sure you're not doing bad things?
See, I'm not going to tell you that I've never failed when I start a business. I have failed more than I have succeeded, right? So more businesses have failed than they have succeeded. But what's been truly unique about me has been the speed at which I operate and I think and I process. If I know I'm failing, I don't have that ego that it's mine, so I have to hold on to it. I put it in the bin immediately, which allows me and gives me that spare capacity to restart something again. So I think what people struggle with startups is that they're under the mindset that this is theirs and they have to make it succeed. I don't go in with a mindset of making sure that the business succeeds. I launch something to make sure that a problem is solved. So if that problem is being truly solved, that business succeeds, no matter what.
So at what point do you decide to call it a day? I mean, I guess having done it so many times and not having the ego about it, you'll cut things loose a lot sooner than most people will cut things loose. I mean, what's your breaking point?
See, I think it's from the start because I do have a decent understanding of numbers and finance, and I have a master's in finance, and I worked in the field of finance. I can do my own projections, but now I have a team working with me on it. From the get-go, you have an understanding of what to expect. You have an understanding of your investment appetite, your investment amount. What's the maximum you're going to put in? The only time that you actually have to take a decision is if you feel that there was something you could have done different that would have definitely moved the needle differently. It is not guesswork. So it's not about your gut. If the data shows me that yes, by doing so and so differently, the results will be different, fine, I'm willing to consider, not guaranteed, but consider the investment process and reinvesting and putting more money into that business. If not, if the data is telling me this is what you projected, you tried your best, it didn't work, you thought you're out to solve this problem, the problem is either not a genuine problem or it's not solved. So call it quits.
Hey, Matt here, just interrupting myself quickly to say thank you for listening to No Bollocks. But did you also know I've got another podcast, Stripping Off, with Matt Haycox. Very different. No Bollocks is the quick daily business tactics that you need, but Stripping Off, we go deep, deep, deep with a CEO, with a celebrity, with an athlete, with just an international, inspiring character. We find out what makes them tick, we find out how they got to where they got to, and we find out how you can learn and benefit from them too. So jump on over to Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you listen to your content, and I'll see you on a future episode.
And what's your methodology when you start a business and invest? Do you put your own capital in to get it going? So it's your idea, it's your seed capital, and then you try and work it to a point where you know you're going to bring in external money, or do you bring external investors in from day one?
So because startup is my passion, I love starting businesses. So it is not necessarily just about investments. Because I love starting businesses, more often than not, I will put in my own money. I will take it to a stage where at least I have the MVP ready. I have a go-to-market product ready before I consider taking any external investment or bringing partners on board, whether it's strategic partners or investment partners. But I try to keep it to myself. Now, when you talk about certain elements of startups, you want to start big from the get-go. In those particular cases, I think you do need to reach out to external investment from day one, but I don't truly enjoy doing it. I enjoy the bootstrap, the 0 to 1 more than 1 to 100.
And are you typically doing it literally solely yourself in these in the early stages, or do you draft a team in to do
Right.
stuff for you as well?
So with every startup, I'm employee number 1. But I also start every startup with an expiry date of me quitting that job in 6 months' time.
Okay.
So I give myself 6 months to make sure for any business that I launch, I put a team together, I put the process together, I have the technology in place. More often than not, I'm able to hit that milestone of 6 months and walk away.
And you become a non-executive director, a chairman, or
I'm
whatever.
there to advise. From that point on, I'm probably out there to learn more from the people on the ground rather than me teaching them something.
So something else we spoke about a little bit before as well is your love of startup businesses. And listen, I love the concept of startup businesses, but as an investor and as a funder, I've had my fingers burnt so many times on investing in startups that now I always say I hate startup businesses. I mean, I don't think it would stop me personally doing any more myself at some point in the future, but in terms of what I like to invest in, I've got to see. I mean, when you say MVP, I want to be deeper than MVP. I want to be cash flow generative. Doesn't have to be cash flow positive, doesn't have to be profitable, but I need to see also that there's a bit of a team in place, not just a founder. But that's I guess that's just me. It's not that I'm right, you're wrong, you're right, and I'm wrong. I guess we like what we like. But
I think we're both saying the same thing here. What I'm saying differently to you is that I enjoy the startup journey, and that's why I probably do it myself and go through that journey myself. But I also wear a hat of a serial investor. Now, when it comes to my investments, I am like you. I don't necessarily invest in just an idea. I want to see an MVP with a vision, right? I want to see revenue generation. So I think that's the difference. Like, there is a part of me which is an investor out there, which is like an angel investor, putting my money in, but probably having nothing to do with that business from an execution or an operations perspective. I do not consider those investments as a part of my startup portfolio. I consider them as a part of my family office holding portfolio.
And when you start to bring the team and when you start to bring the employees in, do you have like an incubator, if you like, with fractional employees that you put across the different ones, or does each business bring in its own 100% people?
So what I try to do, I mean, there's not a 100% right answer to this, but I do try to bring people up. What that means is from the existing businesses, I want to give opportunity to people who truly deserve it. So more often than not, when I'm starting a startup, I would have someone readily available for certain roles, not necessarily for all roles, but it again depends on who's available, at what position they are in, what's their maturity level, how long have they been with me, how well are they doing at their jobs, and I want to give people an opportunity to grow. So I can't be the one preaching entrepreneurship out there. I can't be the one having a dream of creating a platform for entrepreneurs and yet not giving opportunity to the people who are the closest to me. So I actually have gone and terminated a couple of employees and on the side given them a shareholders agreement from my side. Otherwise, they just didn't have the courage to become an entrepreneur or a co-founder with me. So I've actually taken extreme steps to fire them as employees and to bring them on board as a business partner.
I want to take a complete different direction and go back in time. I read when I was doing a little prep for this that your first job was working in your father's gold souk? Or
yes.
It was your father's gold. I mean, listen, I don't know much about souks in general other than having seen plenty of them, when I've been here in Dubai, but it looks like the most intense training ground for salesmanship and for entrepreneurship. I mean, I think I love everything about Dubai, but the one thing I always hate is walking through the mall and getting pounced on by the perfume sellers. And I think like the souk is like that on steroids, but from a I guess a confidence perspective, from a sales perspective, from a trader, what better place than to send a young person. I mean, tell me about your experience of that and tell me how you think that's formed you today.
So throughout my career, people have looked at me and assumed my age and said I'm too young.
How old are you?
I'm not even 40 yet.
Okay.
Right, so I'm in my late 30s. But my journey at Gold Souk started at the age of 12. So I am an almost 40-year-old in front of you, but with a 25-year experience. Because I started early, I didn't have something called ego and shame, or at least whatever was there was wiped out on that training ground. Did I have to mop the floors? Absolutely. You could be the boss or the boss's son, but you still mop the floors, you clean the glass, and that's how I was trained. I had to do my sales. I had to do my sales to earn the 1 dirham to go buy an ice cream. It didn't matter. I had to sell. I would get commissions. I would get tips from clients because I would be a runner for them to go fix their ring size, or if the chain was broken, I would go get it mended and collect tips from that. I started understanding the concept of cash. I understood the concept of banking. I understood the concept of debit, credit, count your petty cash, and above all, how to sell. And one thing that I truly learned was being able to connect with your customer. It is written multiple times in many books, but people till today don't understand when you say, oh, you need to have a relationship with your customer, or you need to connect with them. They think just saying hello, hi, how are you, and having a small talk for 30 seconds, is equivalent to, connecting. I mean, I could at that point could have told you where their kids go to school, what are their pets' name, what beverages do they like when they walked in, making sure the popcorn was out there for the kids, or if they had an allergy, to make sure an ice cream is to be given, not to be given, when are the kids getting married. I mean, you'd be surprised how many clients would have invited me over the years to their weddings and to their kids' weddings. And this became a great way to practice what's in the books, which is connect with your customer. It is not necessarily about price. Yes, you can't cheat them. You have to be fair in what you're offering. But ultimately, if you can build a relationship with someone, it always comes back positively.
So using my example a minute ago of the guys selling the perfume in the malls, what would your view or advice be on that? Because I think from a relationship building perspective, I don't know how they ever get to build a relationship, because to me, they catch the wrong person at the wrong time. I also think, listen, these guys have got resilience beyond belief. I mean, they may be lacking some relationship building skills, but they've certainly got the skills of the life of the hard knocks. These are, for anyone listening to this who doesn't know, these are unpaid, commission-only jobs, where somebody really is eating what they kill and fighting for their life. But how would you retrain someone in that role?
See, I think when you're in that role, unfortunately, the focus is very short-sighted on that sale. So you're trying to grab someone's attention to make a sale. What if you just rewired and retweaked something? What if you tried to grab their attention to build a relationship? If you were passing by, and I had to see you and sell to you, I could call you in and try to sell you my product, which is equivalent to probably 40 other or 400 other stores out there in the Souk. But what if I just came back to you and said, hey, nice shoes, mate. Can you show it to me? I love your socks. Just grabbing your attention, not because I want to sell a product to you, but because I want to build a connection with you. The probability of you walking into the store because I have complimented you on something that truly is unique about you. So it's also about having that eye as to why is a person over here wearing a cap, the other way around. Why is he wearing pink shoes?
I'm hiding a bald head.
Right? But I mean, again, at this point, the idea is that you need to have an eyesight for something that truly is unique about someone, and people always have a telltale sign. They like to wear their personality on their sleeves. If you're able to pick that out, and that is the training that you truly require, not being able to tell you the technicalities of the product that's being sold in the Souk.
But yeah, I mean, I always say myself, I mean, you said relationships. I think relationship building, and one step prior to that, putting the effort into building the pipeline. If you can get those two things right, that is 99% of any sales role in any position for any product anywhere in the world. But I guess, like you say, well, nowadays people aren't bothered to put the effort in. They want the quick wins, the social media magic, so that kills that bit. And they also don't want to put the time into building the relationships because they want the quick sell hard and fast there. But if you can put this doesn't have to be a 10-year timeline, 20-year timeline. If you can put a 6, 9, 12-month timeline on, waking up early, building a big pipeline, and putting days, weeks, and months into building relationships, I think by month 6, month 9, month 12, you're going to have a bucket overflowing of prospects and relationships. This morning, I looked at a couple of videos of you on YouTube, and you were doing five biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make, and three of them particularly resonated with me, which was bad hires, lack of goals, and micromanagement. I forget what the other two were because I wasn't interested in those at the time, but those three. And I think, because for me, I think I have made a career of bad hires. I think that employees in general don't set goals or don't have goals set for them. So let's call that the fault of the entrepreneur or the business owner. And I think so many people are guilty of meddling and micromanaging. And I see them in my own businesses. I see them in the businesses that I advise. But talk to me about those three things. Hiring particularly, because I think so many people believe correctly that that the right people is the bottleneck to their business growth.
See, I think if you have a business that's people dependent, you have failed already.
I did a tweet yesterday that said the dream is a systems dependent business, not a people dependent business.
Yet you can't build systems
Without
and
people.
execute systems without people, right? So let's be honest, you will need people for a business. Now, from that perspective, would I claim to say that you'll always get it right in the first step? Would you always get it right through your interview process? Absolutely not. So my mantra is hire fast, but fire faster if needed.
Yeah.
The problem we have is that we as a society have associated firing someone with a negative sentiment. It's as if you as a business owner are doing something evil. You're taking food away from someone. There's an emotional attachment. Oh, your team is like a family. Your employees, we are one big happy family. No, you're not. You're not a big family. It's more like a team sport. In reality, if you aren't performing, you're shown the door. I mean, your Messis and Ronaldos would have been shown the door had they not been scoring. What's different about our employees and team members? Don't misuse them. Don't treat them as slaves. Be kind, be human, pay them fairly, right? Treat them right, train them well. But at the same time, be sure of your mindset that you're not falling down that trap of getting emotionally connected and then allowing for non-performance to exist. So when I say you got to hire right, it's the right way to get the team together right is hire fast, fire faster for the non-performers.
How quick is how quick? Surely on
Every
day two,
role,
you're not getting rid of them on
no,
day two.
I mean, I think it depends on the role, right? So like if I'm talking about sales, my benchmark in some of, like let's say we do free zone operations over there. And from a sales perspective, my benchmark is if you came from industry experience, you know the product already, you should hit the ground running in 1 month's time. So by day 60,
closing sales.
Yeah, by day 60, you're evaluated.
Yeah.
If you came from outside the industry, day 90, you're evaluated. So you're either shown the door or you're retained on day 90. And it's not only about doing an evaluation once. I think it's important that as business owners, you let the systems drive the business, which is why it's important for me that everyone has KPIs. They're measured against it regularly. And I don't think you should have more than 2 to 3 KPIs per person. So if you keep it simple in terms of what are your expectations, and you have to let the business goal drive it down, right? So if the business needs this, then your sales needs to perform so and so. But in order to do that, marketing needs to do so and so. And then your operation needs to deliver so and so. And your client servicing and client experience needs to deliver. So I think keeping your KPIs simple, 2 to 3 max per person will solve that problem. Because from that point on, it is no longer about, do I like you? Is he nice to me? Does he know the boss? Is he in good relationship with the mid-management? That all becomes irrelevant. All that matters is your performance.
I think something I know I've been guilty of, and I don't know if I speak for other business owners, but I'm sure I probably do, is that because often the time to recruit and the cost of recruitment is so expensive. Well, I mean, maybe it depends on the positions in absolute terms, but in relative terms can be so expensive that it makes us think just another month, just another month. Whereas, which is not the right answer, I'm just being honest. Whereas the flip side of that is, lately we've been recruiting. So one of my businesses is in financial advice. You know, we hire financial advisors. When the financial advisors are coming to us from recruiters, and I know I'm going to be paying whatever, $8,000, $10,000 as a recruitment fee, I'm a lot more stringent on, do I think it's the right person to take on? If it's someone who's come from our own outreach from LinkedIn or from a referral where there's no recruitment fee, even if I'm iffy, and this literally happened yesterday. I did a second interview for a financial advisor we're looking to hire, and the sales manager said, "What do you think? What do you think of this girl?" I said, "To be honest, I said I think she's bonkers. I think she's bonkers. I think she'll be a management hassle, and I think she talks a lot of bullshit." He said, "I think I can convert her." So, well, you know what? Have her. Take her, because there's no recruitment cost. You know, it's on your head for 30, 60, 90 days. If I'd have had to have paid a $8,000, $10,000 recruitment fee for that person, there's not a chance in hell I would have taken her on. And I don't know if I'm therefore also making the wrong decision for taking her on and thinking like that, because it just as a side analogy, I used to play a lot of poker. I don't play anywhere near as much as I did, but I used to like playing in the higher stakes games, right, because when I had to put a higher ticket entry price, it stopped me playing as many shit hands. I mean, I don't know if you play poker. Or
I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean? So, like, for example, when I'm playing $1, $2, for example, and if it costs me $2 to enter the pot, even with very mediocre cards, I'm like, yeah, $2, whatever. Yeah. And what the problem is that does is it's not the two, well, it is two things. One, it's wasting the $2 repetitively, which ultimately adds up. But the bigger problem is you enter a pot with a mediocre hand, what then looks good in the middle is probably not good because the other people who've entered good, but you think it is. That, you know, that sunk cost becomes more money, and then you end up losing a lot of money for something you should never have started playing with in the first place. And maybe that kind of an analogy works with what I shouldn't be doing there. But
so I think I have exactly got the same problem, and any and every other business would have had the same problem, right? I mean, this problem is not unique, what you just highlighted. What I did is I made sure I put in the effort to deal with the problem. The problem was that cost that you got affected by, and your decision got affected by the sunk cost situation. I went and put in an effort to actually have agreements in place, and it took time. It took time, but eventually we had enough agencies on board that were willing to give us some sort of a refund or a rebate, or basically give us a replacement, as long as that firing was happening within a 5 to 6 month period or within the probationary period, right? So that allowed me to not have this problem. That allowed me to treat both of it the same way. So I understand that if I have a sunk cost and if I'm going to pay a recruiter XYZ dollars, the decision will be biased because I have to take it into consideration. The difference here is that then why aren't you putting in an effort to go and renegotiate? And if there are recruiters out there that don't want to offer it to you, just don't work with them. So you will find recruiters out there who will agree to your terms, and give them an opportunity. And you see how all of a sudden you will start having that churn not being an issue. But what also happens, and this only happens for a moment, that churn is not something, it's not always a revolving door. It's not like you're constantly firing and constantly hiring. It is about having that churn till you filter out the bad apples, and then you're left with just the A-star players. Because ultimately, what are you trying to do? Create a team which is A-star players. How are you going to do that if you get stuck with the Bs or the B pluses? Ultimately, you will have to keep filtering out. So you let the worst apple go and you bring in someone till you figure out.
Using that metric or analogy of A's and B pluses, B minuses, where do you draw the realistic line there? Because I mean, you know, as good as you may be, or as good as anyone may be, you can never have maybe in a 3-man business, but in a 500-man business, you're never having 500 A players. I mean, presumably you've got to have some B, and a B's a good player in the right position, you know. But where do you draw the line?
I think it depends from business to business, position to position. So like for my BPO industry business, whereby we have about 1,000 plus employees, and many of them are just out of school, willing to work at a contact center, you don't obviously find very polished talent in that environment. So yes, you have to accept your Bs, even your Cs sometimes. But I think, again, like I said, it's about expectations versus delivery. So I set my expectations and my KPIs at those marks for those roles. Now, at the same time, if I'm looking at agents, which are for some of my businesses that cater to high net worth individuals, and I only probably have a business development team of 4 to 5 people, I want to make sure that 4 to 5 people are A star, that I cannot have even a B plus in there. So I think you have to adjust it business to business, but you would be surprised. I mean, you've been through this journey yourself, but people still get surprised that they think they found out a lot about the other person in an interview process, but the reality is
Find out nothing.
the reality is that there is only so much you will find out in the interview process, because you're not judging them on the basis of how they give interviews. You're judging them on the basis of how they perform.
Jigar, I'm conscious of your time, and I don't say this to blow smoke up your ass because you're here. I honestly think for anyone listening to that, there's probably more nuggets of gold in that 25 minutes or whatever we've just spoken for than in a 3-year MBA. And honestly, I think if I can't wait to do a 1 or 2 hour sit down with you where I get some good preparation time and some good time to really pick your brains, because honestly, mate, your experience in your mind is fantastic. And listen, if no one ever listens to this episode, it's been the most valuable 25 minutes for me that I can think of for a long time. So thank you very much for being here. Just for anyone listening, I mean, and watching, how can they find you? How can they get in touch, or what can they do with you?
Yep, you can reach out to me on jigarsagar.com or head up on my social media accounts, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, X,
Everything.
Jigar Sagar.
Perfect.
I'm there. I do a lot of mentoring, and I look forward to actually connecting with you and taking this conversation forward, where I am doing this because I'm in a mindset that I want to give back to the community. I have at this point obviously helped over 250,000 people become entrepreneurs, and I'm aiming for that number to be 1 million.
Wow.
As soon as possible. And when I sit with people like yourselves, it allows me to reach a wider audience. So I'm happy to take this conversation forward with you.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor. Jigar, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Brother.
Thank you so much.